Clay Manning. Welcome to Watch the Breakdown on the Garden Report. We're going to break down the Celtics offense today after two phenomenal performances in Utah, in Portland. 130 points in the first one, come back with 145 in the next one. Shots fell, certainly, but a lot more is going on with the Celtics offense that makes me optimistic about them being able to get to league average. Now, I think that's their cap, league average. They don't have enough shooting, I don't think, to get into the upper half of the league. That's what drove them there the last few years, and that's what drives everybody to that point at this part in NBA history here. So they, I think, have limitations in how good they can be offensively. They are not going to get back to 130, 147 often. But the one thing that gets them closer is Jayson Tatum, and it's a simple answer. I wrote about it for CLNSmedia.com. You can go check it out with film that you're going to see here, as well as some other doses of film that won't be included in this video. I want to get some other stuff involved in here, but Tatum, it's the easy one here. He has been so much better over the last two games, and you look at the bump in his stats, they reflect pretty evenly the bump that the Celtics are seeing on the offensive end of the floor right now. They go up to 54% from the field, 46% from three. Those staggering numbers, along with the 137 points per game, pretty much match Tatum's bump. 34 points a game from Tatum between the two, 4.5 assists. Getting to the free throw line 10.5 times a game is the real story, though. Celtics leading the league over the last three games in free throw percentage. Really, you go back to mid-November, they're the best free throw shooting team in the league. So if they get there, they're going to convert him, and he's been a big part of that. Shooting 20 of 21 in the two games where the Celtics really went off here. He had been missing free throws earlier in the year, which I thought was concerning, along with his three-point decline. But this was the Tatum we saw in the Brooklyn series last year. Aggressive, getting downhill. Only burying 35% of his threes between the two games. Another struggle-filled one in Utah, but ends up 4-6 over Portland. He is being accentuated right now, and I think that's the real answer to why the Celtics are being so much more efficient, so much more productive on the offensive end of the floor right now. Tatum, there's still concerns. You look at some of the film here, mid-rangers abound. He has his highest mid-range share since 2019, that year that you looked and said, oh, he's shooting too many mid-rangers. That's what's throwing him off on offense. And you look back at that 2019 season, still the odd year out when it comes to his production, his climb in the NBA ladder. He took a little bit of a step back that year after being so great as a rookie. So Tatum, we saw bits and pieces of him attacking, him being willing to pass. I thought he threw some of his best passes we've seen from him all season, and 4.5 per game in terms of assists is a bump for him. Off of lower figures earlier in the season, certainly. Also, some post work. More from Marcus Smart, and we'll get to him in a second, but Tatum, being able to throw him in post mismatches, if there's spacing around him, I think, is going to be a weapon that the Celtics can use. You compare his mid-range shot, 39%, to a mid-30s percentage from the mid-range. Doesn't look good right now, but I don't think the Celtics have set him up in good opportunities to really take advantage of his post-up game. He should watch what Marcus Smart does down there, because he's going to be able to throw great passes out of that position if he draws traffic, and if he's got a guy one-on-one, he can dominate in that spot. More often, though, you want to see him switch, face up slower wings, bigger fours, or smaller guards, and just completely obliterate them. And that's what we saw between Robert Covington, Bojan Bogdanovic, other guys that got thrown onto him in this series. Now, Royce O'Neal, that's a guy that can do well against Tatum. Force him into some contested shots from the mid-range, from the deep two area. And that's where I saw Tatum struggling over the last two. But when he attacked, got to the line, moved the ball, and got off the ball is going to come back to him. I think that's what we're starting to see from Tatum. That set a tone for the offense over the last two games here. Now, there's other things going on too. And the biggest one to me is Grant Williams. 2 up fake, clutch drive, finishes in the lane, going downhill, putting it on the floor. I mean, if you told anybody last year that Grant Williams was going to be doing this year, they'd probably think it'd be either be in garbage time or something crazy happen and a defender went into the stands, or I don't know. Like, it was just inconceivable that Grant would be doing these things a year ago. I mean, some people in the comments, and I hate to do that thing, wanted Grant gone. There was a sizable enough amount of people that felt that way, to me, to acknowledge it. And Grant has been absolutely incredible this year. Exciting, I would say. I'd even go to that level. Because he's hitting his open shots at a high enough rate to actually make himself a floor spacer at this point. You couldn't say that, or even earlier this season, even 2 weeks ago when we saw LeBron James playing free safety, just completely leaving Grant in the corner. And listen, the Celtics still want Grant to play the corner. He's been awesome there. I believe he's still 4th or 5th in the league at this point. 5th as of the last game. Tied for 5th and hitting over 50% of his three-pointers from the corner. The total, actually, is what ranks him 5th in the league right now, along with Lonzo Ball and a few others that are ranked there. But the activity that you see from Grant, beyond the fact that he's 50%, 40%, 90% as a starter this year, which does matter even on the lower volumes that he's showing there, you want someone that can be reliable, and that's what Grant's been this year. Not only on the defensive end, and I'll leave some of that stuff for another time, where he's actually starting to show to be a great switcher. Rim protector on weak side and help defense has been incredible, unless he's guarding Rudy Gobert, which is where he ran into some foul trouble in Utah. But he always moves, the cutting, drawing guys into different parts of the floor, or just spacing them out to the corners. All that is opening up the lane for Tatum. And that's what I talk about when I say accentuating Tatum. He's a guy, when he's out there, who can make the game easier for Tatum. And that's why I think there's a real chance, there's a real case to start him. That's made moot if Al Horford's doing what he did in Utah, though. Celtics went down 14-2 early in this game. Horford, who ended up missing the Portland game, so that makes that one all the more impressive that they didn't have him out there. Recently, though, he's starting to bury those threes. 5 of 11 between the Philadelphia game and the Utah game. Gets out in the break and creates for himself from deep. This was one of my favorite plays of the game because it's just like, Rudy's just going to stand there. No one else is going to come back. I'm at the three-point line. Let's just fire away and hit this. He started the year 28% from deep, and he was one of the guys who I thought the Celtics were really going to rely on for spacing. They didn't have a ton of shooters here, so he was going to be a guy that the team leaned on in that regard. Not to mention 9 assists in the Utah game. Horford can run some sets, play the high post, do things that we haven't seen him do often this year that he may start to ramp up in this last game here. If he can space the floor, other guys can start to lean on their mid-range shots. And I think that's what we saw in that Utah game as well. Dennis Schröder, over the last couple games here, or 50% from the paint. You look at the guys who are thriving from mid-range. Schroeder's at 43%. You have Jayson Tatum up to 47% over the last couple games. So guys can get in that area and work if Horford's focusing on the three-point shooting. I also love, of course, what Josh Richardson has done from that area. When we look at these last couple games here, even if it's just short range floaters and stuff, he's starting to get going there. I wrote about him for CLNS too. Not going to get too much into his impact because I don't think it's a big story out of these two games, but he is hitting that mid-range shot at a 58% rate this year, so it's a real weapon. I'm glad to be wrong about Josh Richardson. Also wrong about Enes Freedom. We'll get to him in just a second, but first is LinkedIn. You're looking for some floor spacing if you're the Celtics this deadline season, or an employee for your business in any role, IT, PR, even a writer or a podcaster. It can be hard to find and hire the right candidates for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. You can create a free job post on LinkedIn in minutes to reach 770 million people. I think that speaks for itself. And whether it's the corner shot or the right copy skills, to get your role in front of the most qualified candidates, so it takes care of itself. Your role is going to be visible to the right people. There's not the life preservers thrown out to the wrong candidates that waste your time. You know, in business, time is important. Every game matters, every hour matters, day and week when you're running your small business. So LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you find the right candidates you want to talk to faster. 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/garden. That's linkedin.com/garden to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Also, can't forget Calm. LeBron James uses Calm. Help your mental fitness. And that's one of the most important things we talk about nowadays. Stressful days, long days. Take the time to focus on your mental health and have Calm aid your sleep, which is crucial for mental health, as well as mindfulness. Meditation is going to help you do that. And for LeBron, listen, love him, hate him, he's great at what he does. And LeBron says sleep is a critical part of his mental fitness. Getting good sleep, finding time to rest is one of the most valuable things I can do for my body and mind, he says. So go to calm.com/garden for a limited time and get 40% off a Calm premium subscription. With Calm, you'll have access to nature scenes LeBron loves, like rain on leaves. I love the thunderstorm. And so much more. Sleep stories and meditations to get you ready for the challenges life throws your way. For a limited time, Garden Report listeners can join LeBron using Calm and get a 40% discount on a Calm subscription. Calm.com/garden. Unlock content to help you focus, ease stress, and sleep better. That's calm.com/garden. Calm.com/garden. 40% off. Go get it this holiday season as you ramp up your stress. And if the Celtics are aiding that in any way, they're starting to alleviate a little bit. And one of the guys who just makes everything a little bit easier, more calm on the court, is Rob Williams. No mistake, he's one of the net rating leaders on the Celtics this year. Aside from this rare dribble drive late in the Portland game, you're not seeing him do too much on offense. In fact, I think the Celtics could stand to target him more. Spacing, though, when we talk about it, it's not just shooting. Rob's roles really open up the offense, make guys rotate over. When you think about Rob and Grant being out there together at times, Grant's corner spacing, Rob's vertical spacing, someone's going to be open between those two, and they got to start to hit him more when he is open. Otherwise, the little things, chasing down offensive rebounds, even keeping balls alive, I think that tires out defenses. I've always believed in that being a big deal on the basketball court, as long as you can continue to defend in transition as well. Rob, so adept at just making the offense, or the defense rather, box him out. The Celtics are going to have to do little things. There's no doubt about it. Offensive rebound, force turnovers, chase down their own misses, as well as go get the balls that they give away. And they do that a number of different times. I love this play right here, how hard the Celtics worked. Beyond just even the initial tip by Rob to keep this ball alive, Jayson Tatum has been a bigger rebounder in the last month or so here. And listen, Rob's impact is subtle. Passing, defending, rebounding, finishing. I mean, he's finishing at a higher rate. He's the NBA leader at finishing this year in terms of field goal percentage. All that amounts to the Celtics scoring 9 more points per 100 possessions when Rob plays versus when he's on the bench. That's the 81st percentile of NBA players, and difference between winning and losing for a team that's just starving for shooting, 3 percentage points on an effective field goal rating. It's a big deal. That's also ranked in the 80th percentile of the league this year. And talking about centers, I can't ignore the impact Enes Freedom has made at this point. Off the court, you're obviously hearing about him. On the court, you should be hearing about him too if you haven't. He is in the 100th percentile of NBA on-off splits. This is a guy who normally is unplayable against certain lineups in his career. Well, they're playing him every game now due to Rob being out. We'll see in a healthy effort tonight against the Lakers how much he actually plays. But the matchup is unmistakable. Held Embiid down, defended him so well physically in that Philadelphia game. Friday, he comes out against Gobert, finds spots to be productive in that one, and then dominates Portland. He comes into the game and it's just so quick. 9 points, 15 rebounds on Saturday in just 22 minutes. He was to a 7 and 10 through halftime, and half that time. His per 36 stats are just incredible. Now, finishing, he's got to do better. 44%. That's a terrible split for a center. It should be 50, 60 even when you're getting point blank looks like he does. But to see a putback dunk from Enes Kanter, that's surprising. I mean, he is in great shape to play. He fits well in this defensive system. They do some things like blitzing, doubling, and dropping that can make him playable within this while still pressuring shooters and being aggressive on that end, making him an active part of it. And rebounding matters too. He is setting a career high in his rebound percentage as well as his offensive rebound percentage. And on the offensive end, where he helps you most is the devastating screens. Per 36 minutes, and I still use that because he's not playing a lot. 6th in screen assists, completely levels defenders, and that's how he frees himself for those offensive rebounds, by setting up mismatches. And in a year where Jayson Tatum is struggling to finish overall, even though he's been better at about 80% the last 3 games here, you can't mistake what Enes Freedom gives you in terms of second chance points through the course of a game. They start to add up, make the offense a little bit more productive even if it's not efficient, and Freedom is putting out good minutes, so you have to continue to play him. There's no denying that. Dennis Schröder, but meanwhile, so aggressive, so fast, he's a blur on the way to the rim, and did you know, better than James Harden, better than MVP candidate DeMar DeRozan, better than Steph Curry, better than Trae Young at the rim. All those guys shooting just about as many shots as Dennis Schröder does to start this year, and Schröder is a cut above, right up there with LeBron James. LeBron shoots 65% at the rim. Schröder, 63%. He never misses at the rim, and he goes there often. Downhill, downhill, downhill. That's what Udoka wants to see on this offense. And he goes there again and again, challenging bigs. It's a way to draw free throws. It's a way to free up some other guys. And Dennis, as much as he pounds the ball, as much as he plays in isolation, and he does, he's willing to get off the ball a little bit and be this finisher. And this is one of the most interesting things, surprising things Ime has told me in the media this year. They like him finishing these passing sequences. He's hitting 47% of his open threes, not shooting a ton of them 2 a game, but enough to actually make an impact in the offense here at the rate he's hitting them. Schröder, to me at this point, more productive Kemba, and that's why this team's starting to remind me a little bit of the 2020 Celtics. Just that secondary scorer who makes things a little bit easier for Tatum, for him to be able to meet Tatum at 31 in a productive, efficient night, for him to be able to lead the offense certain nights with 38 like he did against Milwaukee. That's when it really started to hit me just how big of a lottery the Celtics hit in terms of signing this guy. Does he do some frustrating things? The on-ball, live ball turnovers drive me crazy when it comes to him. But you take the bad with the good here, and there's just so much more good when it comes to Schröder, his willingness to pass, and his ability to get his shot off in the lane, from 3 on the catch and shoot situations. Not the most efficient guy in the world, but again, you take points where you can get them on this team. You take quality shots. They have bought into that, and he has been a big part of their offensive resurgence the last couple of games here. Paired with Smart and Richardson down the stretch, by the way. Schröder, Tatum, Horford, and the 3-guard lineup there. An intriguing offensive one. You mix in Richardson with Schröder, and they've been a good bench duo for this team. Celtics ended up posting an offensive rating of 136 in the final 5 minutes of that Utah game. Now, they gave up 227, just an onslaught of offense that Utah threw at them, throwing off some of these lineups when we look at the numbers here. But when you're capable of putting up offense at the rate that that lineup did, some intriguing possibilities, I think, in 3-guard lineups with Tatum at the 4, with Brown at the 4, along with Horford and Rob. Just a number of combinations you can throw out there. It's amazing how versatile and deep the Celtics are shown to be when you think about what Richardson's doing for them, what Freedom's doing for them. Guys that you didn't maybe expect to be as good as they've been so far for this team. Last thing I'll throw out there in the offense, maybe the most important thing from November and the early portion of December. Marcus Smart went on a string of 13 straight games with 5 or more assists. That settled down here the last few games, but he became more involved in the offense as a driver. He's driving more than ever before. Last year was a big high, 7 drives a game. 9 drives a game now for Smart. He's upping the pressure on the rim even more, and he's starting to finish there. Just an incredible game around the basket for Smart in Portland, backing down CJ. He talked about it on Monday, how those are just spontaneous plays from him, and he's starting to get there. perhaps has a little more freedom to go to the low post and pass out of that spot under Ime, as well as try to score. Brad wasn't the biggest fan of the post-up. So I think that's an area that Ime has unlocked when it comes to Smart, but the dribble drives more so, making him a great creator. And over the last couple of games here, 38% from 3. That's going back 9 games for Marcus Smart. So he's on a real shooting tear here. Hit 2 big ones in Toronto to win that game down the stretch. Hit some big ones in Utah to keep the Celtics in it, and then goes inside and hits a bunch of shots around the basket over the Trailblazers. Scores 17 points. Make himself a tertiary scorer. How's that for a word? Marcus Smart finding his role in this offense, conceding a little bit to Schröder in terms of on-ball scoring, but finding spots for himself to contribute, as well as focusing on playmaking, secondary playmaking a lot of the time. I think Smart's hockey assists would be high if you looked at them. So these are all the things coming into play here. It's scrappy, it's messy, it's not going to be clean ever for this offense, I think. We might have seen the cleanest games on them for the whole season. But they did do things in these games to make life easier for Tatum and let him be the juggernaut who has led some massive offensive efforts in the past for this team. Making things easier for him, and eventually Brown will be the key for the Celtics being able to be a league average offense and ride top tier, maybe even number 1 defense to the top half of the Eastern Conference. We'll get into Jaylen Brown a little bit. I want you to look out for that article later today, into tomorrow in the back-to-back out in LA, and look for the live coverage out in LA that CLNS Media is doing. Josue Pavone, Nick Gelso, as well as Cedric Maxwell on scene out there. So go check out those videos on Celtics All Access. Stick with us post-game in LA. We're live after the games late into the night or early in the morning, depending on where you are in the world. And more of these to come. Watch the breakdown, the Garden Report. Go to linkedin.com/garden. Get a free job post, and go to com.com/garden for 40% off a premium subscription. I'm Bobby Manning. Jaylen Brown breakdown coming up next. Stay tuned for that, how he's going to fit back into this offense and keep this ball rolling when they hit a bump in his last return. It's not going to happen quick. They're going to let him heal fully, it seems. But I do think there's some questions in terms of what his role is going to be when he gets back.